The Republican Party is stress testing to see what they can get away with. What they're doing here is insane. Like, I mean, this is just completely insane. Not giving Trump's golden age. I'll tell you that much. Okay.
And Carol, just on a substantive question, yesterday, the White House Office of Management and Budget directed across the board freeze, with some exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some of the confusion, give some certainty to folks? And also, is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for trans.
I love that. We've put a pause on all government social safety nets and all expenses. We've put a pause on everything because the government is spending money on DEI. Using DEI to effectively gut federal programs and federal spending. People are so. Do you see this? President of the United States is falling for the AI slop. What? No. Just stay in Japan, big bro. Dude, that he posted at AI car and said, "What a beautiful car. Congratulations to GM." And the tweet is, "Good morning. Welcome all new members. We have reached 1.1K since this group started 5 days ago. Big things are coming, not just for Trump, but for crypto as a whole. I believe Trump is far more than just a meme coin and play an important role in things to come." Trump signed an executive order yesterday relating to the strategic crypto reserve. Major moves. He also told the WEF that the USA would become the crypto capital of the world. His company TMTG is also going into crypto and is working to acquire Backed. Launched the TruthFi exchange. Devin Nunes at Cash. Enjoy the show. Wow. What a beautiful car. Congratulations to GM. What a beautiful car. Wow. I don't even know, like I just don't fully understand what the deal is with GM. Like, what is GM for good morning in this situation? Like, what does this stand for? Because there's nothing like GM, like this is not about General Motors. The only time where GM is featured in the tweet, which is what is accompanying this AI slob image, he doesn't care about the GM part. He's just promoting his coin. I mean, yeah, it is concerning that he's, you know what? You're right. I'm talking about the AI slob angle, but yeah, this is the president that's quite literally promoting his own coin while he's in office. It's crypto verbiage saying good morning. Okay, I am still invested in the AI slob. Maybe this is to offer plausible deniability when he's like promoting his own crypto coin. Isn't that impeachable? Yo, this guy thinks that guy's funny. Yo, did you guys hear that? There's a dude in the chat that said, "Isn't that impeachable?" Dude, that's hilarious. What's next? Are you going to tell me that you know, removing birthright citizenship is unconstitutional? Is that what's next? You're going to tell me like The Supreme Court would never allow that. I saw this. You called it. Not sure how true, though. What? About that. Okay, let's continue. Can you claim asylum in Japan? No. Oh my God. Two parties running at different speeds. Senate Dems are holding a press conference today to condemn the pardoning of January 6ers. That was done a week ago. Unclear if there's a presser today to go after OMB's power play to take over all of federal grant money. Oh my God. Oh my God. Dems need an extra day to come up with a counter to the Medicaid freeze. Oh my God. Hakeem Jeffries in Dear Colleague letters lays out House Democrat strategy in response to the federal grant freeze. We will convene an emergency meeting of the House Democratic Caucus tomorrow. In response, at the meeting, we will discuss a comprehensive three-pronged counteroffensive anchored in 1, appropriation strategy, 2, litigation strategy, 3. Dude, what is going on, man? What? They are more incompetent than I thought they would be. Like the Democratic Party is truly worse. I'll just say it like this. The Republican Party is not worse than I expected because I expected the worst of them. But the Democratic Party is truly worse in their performance than what I expected them. And the bar was low. I expected them to do at least a little bit. Like I said, there's not going to be the classic hashtag resistance, all the stuff, right? And, you know, yeah, I was right that there wasn't going to be a classic hashtag resistance. That's fine. But this is, you know, beyond the pale. Dems are quiet quitting. I think they quiet quit a long time ago. The Ways and Means Democrat. Hey, so this is insane. Oh my God. OMB memo sent to me appears to suggest a pause on basically all federal assistance starting tomorrow at 5. Is there any other way to read this? Hey, so this is insane. We are the we're the Ways and Means Committee for the Democratic Party, and hey, is anybody else seeing this? That's not good. I'm falling asleep, but like with my eyes open.
Genderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving individual assistance, you will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by issuing this pause because he is being good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
How long is this pause going to last, and how is the Trump administration recommending that organizations that rely on federal funding make payroll, pay their rent in the meantime?
It is a temporary pause, and the Office of Management and Budget is reviewing the federal funding that has been going out the door. Again, not for individual assistance, but for all of these other programs that I mentioned. I also spoke with the incoming director of OMB this morning, and he told me to tell all of you that the line to his office is open for other federal government agencies across the board. And if they feel that programs are necessary and in line with the president's agenda, then the Office of Management and Budget will review those policies. I think this is a very responsible measure. Again, the past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country. And it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
I mean, we're talking about like half the country. Not half the country, but like tens of millions of Americans rely on Medicaid and Medicare. That's insane. How many Americans are on Medicare and Medicare? Medicaid and Medicare. 72 million. Grandpa has to die because woke, dude. You don't understand. Grandpa has to die because woke. Okay? Do you get it? Do you understand? We have to tackle woke. And now grandpa has to die. Grandma also dead because woke. Yeah. Immediately suspending all federal assistance until every program can be reviewed for Marxism is like a parody of Tea Party politics. This is the kind of thing you would have heard floated back in talk radio in 2010. These are, I will say, these are moves. This is like bubble. This is stress testing. That's what we're doing here. The Republican Party is stress testing to see what they can get away with, I think. God, I don't want to be 2016 ass libbed up here, but it kind of feels like it. Because what they're doing here is insane. Like, I mean, this is just completely insane. Not giving Trump's golden age. I'll tell you that much. Okay. Trump stopped major funding for my state, and the main bridge for traffic is now going to be rebuilt in probably 2030. No, dude, you don't understand. Infrastructure week is coming. Okay. It's coming quickly. 41% of all births are covered by Medicaid. Overnight, Republicans are destroying healthcare for millions of Americans, and it isn't just Trump. Republican majorities in the House and Senate are backing this illegal sabotage. They're all in on it, everyone. It's really cool that they didn't let AOC run any, forward-facing, important position where her voice would matter even a little bit more. I'm glad that they have instead a party of geriatric old men who are, cancer victims themselves, turning around and just going getting their 18-year-old interns to write is anybody else seeing this? That's a good way to communicate in this situation, right? Oh my God, I am going to literally Sudoku. Oh my God, Republicans are quite literally defunding the police, Schumer says of Trump's federal aid freeze. Stop. Oh, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. It truly does feel like the Democratic Party is actively and deliberately trying to sabotage. It does feel like they've just abdicated their duty. They've completely dropped the ball. They just don't. I'm not an anarchist, chat, and I never have been. But goddamn, there's no, I don't know. There's no help coming from the government. Okay. News: confusion among Dems on how to respond to Trump's stunning federal assistance freeze, with Schumer telling senators to downplay policy response to the spending directive and just pick a single nominee to use as a protest vote. Several did that with Duffy just now. So they want it to happen. No, there's no other way to look at it. I'm sorry. This is not just bad politics. You just don't care. You just don't care. You don't care that it's happening, and you actually wanted it to happen. And I think you like that it's happening. There's no, this is not incompetence. This is, you're complicit. That's crazy. Schumer telling senators to downplay policy responses to the spending directive and just pick a single nominee for a protest vote. So open, so obvious that they're not interested in doing anything. A protest vote for a single nominee. What are you talking about? They don't need your votes, man. They don't need your votes. Hey, guess what? Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense. Okay, what do you mean a protest vote? What the hell is going on right now? What are you people doing? What are you people thinking? What is happening? Am I losing my mind? Why are these people so bad? What is going on? I'm losing my mind watching this unfold. Am I crazy? I don't know. Am I crazy? What? How do you not do anything? What is the difference between you and Donald Trump? Voice cracked? Dude. This is I'm cracking. I'm sorry. If our mentally brain damaged, mentally deficient, leadership in the Senate's response to Donald Trump freezing all federal funding, which is the number one Republican fantasy. Okay. This is the real that the Republicans fantasize about, the institutional Republicans fantasize about, not the racism. Everybody focuses on the racism, but the racism is actually for the kids. Okay. The racism is literally the candy that you get to eat after eating the broccoli. This is the broccoli. This is the real okay? Cutting federal funding is the real undermining the federal regulatory agencies is the real The racism is just the scraps that they throw to the peasants and the lumpen proles who love all of the culture war. That keeps them distracted. That makes them feel like their voice matters and has an impact. But that is the real and they're doing the real and the Democrats are well, nobody, I'll have you know, sir, it is you who has defunded the police. I will throw you in prison, okay? I want Chinese-style communism to happen. inside of the Democratic Party right now. Okay. I want to do cultural revolution when I see that. Okay. We're doing a struggle session. Chuck Schumer, get on the cuck stage. Okay. People can now throw their old tomatoes at Cuck Schumer. Get on the cuck stage now. Explain to us your counter-revolutionary behavior right now, Cuck Schumer. I decided to talk about the funding of the police. I thought that was an acceptable, appropriate angle of attack, while Donald Trump has cut the health care of 72 million Americans. What do you mean? Donald Trump has defunded the police. What do you mean? Who is this for? Nobody thinks you are the pro-funding the police party. Nobody thinks that. You're so stupid. They think you're a goddamn socialist. They think you want to kill cops. Why the are you trying to be like, ooh, I guess Donald Trump defunded the police? Like, that is, oh my God. As far as a line of attack goes, what a stupid way to have this conversation when there are tens of millions of Americans who are in a place of uncertainty right now. Okay, whether it be their Social Security, whether it be their health care, and you're going, awfully hypocritical, don't you think? I can't look at this in any way other than complicity. Was this not just irony? What do you mean? I mean, maybe they're in a state of shock. What the are you talking about? I get to be in a state of shock. You get to be in a state of shock. We are just normal citizens. The Democratic Party doesn't get to be in a state of shock. Also, I showed you an example of someone within that state of shock that actually is doing a much better job communicating a counter. And like it, hate it, doesn't matter. AOC, AOC has done a lot of stuff that I disagree with, especially with respect to the Brandon regime. But that is the appropriate way. That is the competent leadership that you're supposed to get from the Democratic Party. Okay. Yes. I saw Hakeem Jeffries. Presidents come and presidents go, through it all. God is still there on the throne, which is so funny because Hakeem Jeffries obviously is like Nancy Pelosi's. Nancy Pelosi groomed Hakeem Jeffries, and not in like the Zoomer way of talking about grooming. I mean, like in the OG way of talking about grooming, as in like he was. I should have never used that term. Everyone's gonna understand it. Like, Hakeem Jeffries is Nancy Pelosi's guy, okay? He was prepared for the job. He was mentored for the job. He was groomed for the job. He was the protege. And some of you might not know this, but Nancy Pelosi also is like very godly. And it's interesting because I guess he's also running with the I'm very godly thing. Not blaming a bug that nuked a Medicaid site. After obviously lying, they wouldn't touch it, and Dems aren't saying shit. The White House is aware of the Medicaid website portal outage. We have confirmed no payments have been affected. They're still being processed and sent. We expect the portal to be online shortly. Another example of bare minimum response here. Lies. Okay. I mean, decent. Definitely still better. Not as good as the AOC one. But like, dude, that is bare minimum. Okay. That is bare minimum. Like, AOC is bare minimum. I'm not saying that's what the Democrats should be doing. I'm saying that is what any competent person would like immediately start off as. Okay. Because if the Democratic Party as an institution was actually competent, they would literally stop this process. They would, use as many legal hurdles as they possibly can, immediately go on a full throttle agenda, speaking loudly in front of every camera they can, just like Chuck Schumer was doing the exact opposite of what Chuck Schumer is doing, where they just communicate to every American, hey, there are 330 million Americans living on this beautiful soil, okay, that was given to us by God. And as a God-fearing, law-abiding American citizen, and as a public servant, I come to you, the American people, with horrifying news, because every single one of you at a certain point takes advantage without recognizing or directly takes advantage of a government entitlement program 72 million Americans are on Medicaid and Medicare. 41% of births that happen on this nation are paid in some parts through the Medicaid process. Donald Trump and the Republican Party has consistently wanted to take away the meager help that this government offers every single American. And today, they finally did it. Okay? They finally kickstarted this process. And as a competent Democrat, as the leader of the Democratic Party, I am going to do everything in my power to protect you, every single one of you Americans, because it does not matter if you're a Republican. It does not matter if you're a Democrat. It does not matter if you didn't vote at all. I'm here to help you, as is my job. As a public servant, I am here to serve you, the public, not the corporations, not the billionaire oligarchs that sat next to Donald Trump during his inauguration because they paid for it. Okay? That's what, that is what that's not, I just came up with that on my own, literally in a second. Okay? This is not, I'm not a particularly brilliant person. I don't think that what I said was good. I don't even think that was a good speech. You would have to tweak that a little bit, right? You would have to tweak it. But if I, a moron, can come up with that in a second, I'm pretty sure there's some comms people out there with any kind of competent leadership, any kind of interest in actually trying to help Americans. They could come out and at least aesthetically do something about it. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. What really? This is not reinventing the wheel. Okay. This is just basic stuff. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what basic politics is. Okay. Even if you don't believe in any of this shit, that's what you're supposed to say. You think Republicans, you think a Yale graduate, Rhodes Scholar is constantly thinking about woke? No, they're talking about it because that's what keeps people's attention as they actually pick apart the federal government, okay? As they take away what remains of these marginal social safety nets that every American takes advantage of. Google, federal freezes, Medicaid pause, Trump freeze, funding freeze, Medicaid funding freeze. See, I think you're lightly wrong. We have politics in Canada that genuinely hate trans people and shit, I feel. No, dude, you're misunderstanding me. I'm sorry, but you cannot convince me that the only thing that the average Republican politician cares about is some dumb culture war shit, when what they do care about is making sure that their corporate benefactors get a decent return on their investment in terms of campaign contributions. Okay, they care about deregulation. They care about tax cuts. That's what they care about. The woke, they don't care about the green M&M not being enough. Okay, that's just something that they talk about to make people pay attention to that when they're secretly undermining the federal government at the behest of corporations. Okay? You think, oh man, they took out the dick vein from the Snickers bar, dude. That's what I'm writing a piece of legislation to combat the woke. I'm memeing. I'm using exaggerated examples of what Republicans, talk about in terms of woke and cancel culture or whatever. How are Republican commentators like Ben Shapiro going to justify this? Are you kidding me? This is Ben Shapiro's dream. Ben Shapiro probably died for 3 seconds. He experienced medical death for 3 seconds because he nutted too hard when he heard that all federal spending was frozen, whether by accident or deliberately. Okay. He probably died and came back. Ben Shapiro is now Jesus Christ officially. Okay. You think Ben Shapiro would turn around and be like, oh my God, I can't believe the Trump administration has done the thing that I can't even talk right now. I have nutted. I apologize. Excuse me. I've soiled my boxer briefs. Okay. It seems I'm the second. It seems this is the second goonacide. Okay. The first one happened at the bikini bar. The second one is happening in my pants. I have never been so hard in my entire life thinking about all the poor people dying because they don't have access to government-funded entitlement programs when they should have simply worked harder and picked themselves up by their bootstraps if they're experiencing any sort of medical problems at the age of 75. is what makes me nut. I now have a wet-ass P word in my pants.
Why pose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring, as you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOJ and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOJ and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
One on the freeze in federal funding. Who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And on what happened on Friday night, the administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting on.
So you're confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, those prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed?
We will win in court.
And
yes.
Did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House, so yes.
I do want to go to you first, Daniel Dale, to talk about a very big issue that is going to affect a lot of Americans, and that is the recent pause by the White House on these federal.
Yes, I heard. Condoms in Gaza. I heard. How much you want to bet that is a reframing of much needed, like, reproductive health aid, okay? It's most likely medical aid, and they're just basically saying it's condoms in Gaza. The irony, of course, is that it's most likely sanitary products and not condoms, but like tampons and other versions of like medical aid for reproductive health purposes specifically, but they just said condoms in general to make it seem like the entire program is silly and stupid. Leave it. Said that the signing of the executive order was sufficient notice. That's so messed up. Yeah.
Grants and loans. Carolyn Levitt tried to say repeatedly that she had answered this question, that direct assistance like Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, if you're getting that direct assistance or that direct check from the government, it's not going to be affected. But there's a lot of groups that you would expect and nonprofits that you would expect will asked about Meals and Wheels, Head Start. She wouldn't answer that question. And there's also so much other federal funding that goes to nonprofits, that goes to local and state entities. So not directly to individuals, but to entities that provide that essential aid then to individuals that's held up. What did you think about what you heard?
Yeah, I think it's a classic spinmeister tactic, saying I answered that when you haven't answered it, and apparently can't answer it right away. There's considerable uncertainty around the country among nonprofits of various kinds, organizations of various kinds, and the people who get help from those organizations. So they may not get direct individual payments straight from the federal government, but their lives, their situations, their living situations, in some cases their food and transportation situations, are very much dependent on the aid that comes through and into your.
There are the center-left parties everywhere, but the overwhelming majority of them would still probably realize what just fell into their lap if you put them in this exact position. I would also recommend that we focus on grants, law enforcement, opioid prevention, and veterans, things that Trump voters and swing voters may particularly care about. I don't know how to. I don't know what to say. Like I am in awe. I genuinely think that like you can't be this bad unintentionally. Like it's just so bad. Like hyper focusing on things that the Republican voters care about. Like, yeah, you know what they care about? Healthcare, man. What are you talking about? Like, what do you think is more important to like a Republican who has grandparents on Medicare? Defunding the police? Like, you think that's more prescient? That's more significant? They shut down all federal spending to do this like silly ass like who's woke around these parts style McCarthy trials. Like, you think that's worth it? Do you think that's a worthwhile thing to engage in? This is the stuff that Republicans dreamed about for years and years and years. And the only reason why I mention that is because that obviously implies that the Democrats know that this is coming. As a matter of fact, I know that the Democrats know that this is coming because they constantly used to, quote unquote, fearmonger about this sort of thing, that this is precisely what the Democrats would be doing. And to me, it feels like that fear mongering wasn't real at all. Like they were just kind of doing that, but they didn't have any sort of real investment in it. Because now that moment has come, they're talking about the dumbest possible. It was clearly outlined in Project 2025. Chatter, Project 2025 was Project 2024. And here, I'll show you these two quotes back to back that perfectly represent this. Reckless is correct. This is what Paul Ryan worked on his whole career, and many Republicans before Paul Ryan as well, and many Republicans will after this as well. Okay? So this goes back to the point that I was making about Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation and the American Enterprise Institute is the backbone of the Republican Party. Okay? Their agenda is the Republican agenda. Trump is not unique in that regard. Okay? This is very much the Republican Party's agenda and has been for the longest time, right? So it's not even necessarily like Project 2025 that is something that something that you should be like fearful of or notice or whatever. This is like what they have been doing for years and years and years. This is just a logical conclusion of reactionary American Republican Party politics. Okay. And the things that they used to dream about that the Democrats would openly say that they're going to do, and then the Republicans were like, nah, we wouldn't do that. That's crazy. They're finally doing. And the Democrats are like, hey, you know what's really crazy? Donald Trump is defunding the police. Like, what is this hypocrisy baiting, dude? Like, at this point, what's the purpose? Like, who cares about the hypocrisy of it? Your spectator outrage is soggy and misplaced. This falls on third-party commies as much as conservatives, both who attack Dems. I really hope the Gazans were worth it, man. What? Chatter, I'm talking about the modern Democratic Party right now and their ineptitude. And you're fantasizing about like third-party voters. Like, do you think third-party voters are the reason why Chuck Schumer is saying, like, do you think third-party voters are responsible for Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and most Democratic Party leadership just feeling like they were caught pissing against the wind? What the hell does that have to do with third-party voters at all? You just wanted to do blue MAGA for no reason. Also, if every single third-party voter voted for Kamala Harris, she still would have lost in key states. So I don't know why you're still fantasizing. No grasp of consequence. I don't think you have a grasp on anything. At least the dumbass MAGA people get something out of their leadership. There's a whole bunch of pain that comes along with it, but at least the dumbass MAGA people who are unimaginably loyal to Donald Trump sometimes get something in return. Like if they went to prison, they get released or whatever. Democrats don't even do that for their loyalist blue MAGA. And you still are defending them at a moment when your grandfather's like social safety nets might be in play here. And they are just the singular group that actually has to do something to fight back against this is woefully incompetent and is doing a terrible job of pushing back. And you're still fantasizing about some third-party voters and also Gaza. When I hear stuff, more soggy outrage, I'm out, said my piece. When I hear stuff like this, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's very hard, very, very hard for me to maintain any semblance of empathy for a person like this who is going to be probably horribly over by this administration. I totally get why people despise liberals and the Democratic Party in general, though. Because, like, if I was a person with no firmly held convictions, okay, but at least, like, I had an opinion about, I don't know, babies dying in Gaza or something, and some smarmy-ass moronic liberal came up to me and said this, I'd be like, okay, I'm a Trump voter now. F you. My entire life's mission now is to make sure that that guy is pissed off all the time. Like, that's how I would operate going forward. I'd be like, nah, like, I hate you. I hate you so much. I hate you almost as much as I hate the Republicans. And as a matter of fact, right now, you're the one who's annoying me. So I hate you more than the Republicans is what the average person's opinion would be. Like, liberals are so smarmy, so entitled, so elitist, and so wrong all the time. Okay. Like, can you imagine looking at this moment? Like, if you as a liberal and a card carrying Democratic Party supporter, if you are not angry at the Democratic Party right now for not mounting a significant defense, okay, even on aesthetic grounds, and you're still using this as a silly way to just yell about like Jill Stein voters who wouldn't have actually made up for Kamala Harris's ineptitude anyway and incompetence in her campaign anyway, because the margins were that bad, then you've basically demonstrated that you don't care about anything. Like, this is the moment where you're supposed to come in here and be like, you know what, Hasan? I normally hate you because I think you're far too critical of the Democratic Party, even though the Republicans are a far graver threat to American future. And this is the moment where you're supposed to say, you know what? We're aligned on this. And I think that the Democratic Party should be doing a better job fighting back against this. But you just fantasized about third-party voters somehow being responsible for this, even though the numbers prove you wrong, demonstrating once again that it's just your petty disagreements that you have with people that have people who don't agree with you for a multitude of different reasons, sometimes very valid ones. A federal judge temporarily blocks Trump administration freeze on federal grants and loans. I just don't understand the mentality of like being. I don't understand the mentality of demonstrating cult-like loyalty towards the Democrats. At least the Republicans do good politics and constantly focus on like idiotic culture war that these people seemingly can't get enough of, right? The Democrats don't even do that. They don't do anything.
Intermediary organization, and we still do not have clarity on what is happening with the funding that usually goes to those entities.
Let's go to the briefing room now with CNN's Caitlin Collins, who was asking questions of Levitt, specifically about the legality of Trump freezing money.
Hasan, a sneaky Republican. Hasan just looking on both sides, such an easy thing to do. Is it? Okay. Let me ask you. Ask yourself why it's so easy to on both sides. Perhaps it is because the Democrats are also dog at their jobs. Have you considered that? Perhaps you also recognize that, and that's why you're admitting that it's easy to do. And then you follow up by claiming that I'm a sneaky Republican. No, dude. The Democrats and their complicity towards the Trump administration and its agenda, some of the most insane aspects of their agenda, is infinitely more complicit or infinitely more pro-Republican than any number of different criticisms that I can launch against the Democratic Party for aligning with the reactionary right. Okay? I just wish you would sometimes say some good things about Democrats. I'm going to lose my mind, dude. I don't hear it ever because they don't do it ever. They don't deserve it. Okay, they don't deserve it. The do you mean? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Just lie? Is that what you want? Oh, nah, dude, you guys don't understand. When Chuck Schumer said, "Oh, the police are getting cut," and the Republicans are actually the party that's defunding the police, a failed message from now officially 2 election cycles. Okay, it didn't move the needle for Biden in a significant way in the 2020 cycle, and in spite of that, Biden still won. And it did not move the needle for Kamala Harris, who lost. Okay. Nobody in America thinks that the Republicans are the party that's defunding the police. Like, that's not real. That's not a real thing. That's just a stupid thing that they keep repeating over and over again, even though it's a failed message. Oh, my criticisms of the Democratic Party revolve around their closeness to the Republican agenda. I don't think people understand this when they come in here and they go, "Oh man, Hasan, you're like criticizing both sides." It's like, yes, dude, if both sides are reflecting the same right-wing politics, okay, then yeah, I'm going to be critical of that because I have an issue with right-wing politics. I have an issue with reactionary politics. I have an issue with undermining the federal government. It does not matter to me if it's the Democratic Party doing it. It does not matter to me if it's the Republican Party doing it. Okay? So when I criticize the Democrats, it is because I'm criticizing them on the virtue of their closeness to the Republican Party in both agenda and also in their lack of interest in fighting back against the Republican agenda. It's just so strange that they're still upset about.
I want all of
What is this?
brain dead, cowardly. Both sides are the same. I can't vote because of my conscience. Weasel to come
Too disgusted to properly gloat is almost over. In parentheses, just begun.
right
What?
front and center. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is raiding elementary schools and ripping patients.
Dude, this is such a funny argument to make because the Democrats literally lost. Okay? And part of the reason why they lost is because they ran to the right. Part of that running to the right also involved adding additional funds to Border Patrol. Okay? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you saying right now? Every single thing that the Trump administration does right now that is awful, the Democratic Party tried to push for a marginally better, still ultimately bad version of, and that played a role in their spectacular defeat. Because for most Americans, they looked at the situation and they went, I don't understand. Why would I want the lighter, shitty diet soda version of the same thing that I can get from the Republicans? I'm just looking at what you're doing and I'm simply seeing it for what it is. An admission that the Republicans were right. You're just admitting that you were wrong and the Republicans were right. So why would I celebrate that? I will punish you.
But it is in disagreement with the legal opinion of this administration.
Yeah, birthright citizenship is unconstitutional. Great stuff.
That was appropriated to be spent by Congress. Caitlin, what did you make of her response?
Yeah, that was a big question, obviously, that came from a lot of lawmakers on Capitol Hill, particularly Democrats who have been outraged about this freeze in funding today. You saw Caroline Leavitt come out here in her first briefing, clearly understanding the confusion that this order has caused and the questions that it has raised. I should note, not just among Democrats on Capitol Hill, but regular people all across the country wondering, does this affect their veterans organization? Does it affect homeless shelters? Does it affect Medicaid? That's still been a big question that was unanswered at this briefing. And she came out and said that this is temporary, as we know, but it's not clear how long this could go on for. We know in the memo it's calling for a review that would go until February 7th at least. So presumably until then, that we are still awaiting and seeking clarity on that front. but also just looking at what this would affect and how, whether or not this is legal to do, because all of this money that they are saying that they want to review to make sure it fits with their priorities, it's already been appropriated by Congress. It's already there for these agencies to spend and to disperse out to these programs and to these grants that it is set to go to. And so that is the question. She said it was the White House counsel's office who advised the president on the legality of this, and that was present in that memo that she was referencing there. That's going to be a big question, though, for Democrats on Capitol Hill, who have been arguing, we appropriated this money. It's already set to go out. You can't tell these agencies that they can't get it. But then she did reinforce there that this is not a permanent ban on this funding. It is temporary. But again, that is still raising real questions from a lot of places around the country that are seeking clarity on this.
We're going to start with the breaking news, though, from the Trump White House and a dramatic new move that could impact millions of Americans. Overnight, the administration ordered a freeze that starts today on all federal grants, loans, and other aid. Now, that could amount to trillions in...
Dude, another thing that I found a funnier way to argue against this, okay? I'm Chuck Schumer. I go up on stage and I say, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump once again showed that he's Vladimir Putin's best friend, because these funding freezes will also undermine our support for Ukraine. Yeah. I don't know what this is. Tropes. What is the trope? What are you saying? Donald Trump is putting our allies at risk by taking away funding from NATO. It's like it's like people are dying on the streets, dude. There's like no more grants for, like, you know, people that are in desperate need of aid from the federal government. And Chuck Schumer comes out and says, like, we are really threatening America's position around the globe by taking away funds from NATO. Georgia Republicans suggested kids who participate in school-age programs sponge off the government. Hell yeah. That's my favorite, dude.
Federal dollars. And there are new executive orders to tell you about targeting the military, including ending DEI initiatives and forcing out transgender service members. Our correspondents in Washington are covering this story from all angles. Let's go first, though, to Nancy Cordes with that memo that was sent to federal agencies last night. Nancy's got people talking. Good morning to you.
It sure does, Gail. This new order is sweeping, but it is also confusing. And this morning, all of Washington is trying to figure out exactly what it means. The White House appears to be calling on all agencies to impose a spending freeze on federal assistance by 5 p.m. today. And it appears that we're talking about everything from aid to nonprofit organizations to funding for universities. This could even affect loans to small businesses and grants to state and local governments. Now, in this memo, the Office of Management and Budget at the White House orders all federal agencies to assess all of their programs and activities to ensure that they comply with President Trump's recent executive orders. And in the meantime, it says all federal assistance must be temporarily frozen. The memo specifically mentions financial assistance for foreign aid, quote, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. The White House estimates the U.S. spent $3 trillion on federal assistance last year, though how they came up with that number is not exactly clear. The memo states this will not impact Social Security, Medicare, or assistance provided directly to individuals, Gail.
Well, Nancy, we're all waiting to hear exactly what specific programs are being targeted here. But here's a big question. Is this even legal?
That is a great question, Gail. Democrats are already arguing that it isn't. Chuck Schumer, the Senate's top Democrat, put out a statement overnight saying, quote, Congress approved these investments and they are not optional. They are the law. He said this sudden freeze is going to lead to organizations missing payroll, not being able to pay their rent. There are also concerns that this temporary freeze could impact disaster assistance, programs for the elderly or the hungry, even school lunch programs. No one really knows. But this memo, Gail, from the Trump White House argues, quote, that the use of federal dollars to advance Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies is a waste of taxpayer dollars that does not improve the day-to-day lives of those we serve. This is going to be a big battle, Gail.
Yeah, more on this to come for sure. Nancy, thank you.
The president also moved to put his mark on the U.S. military, removing diversity measures and putting transgender troops on notice in a way that seems to go further than he did in his first term. Ed O'Keefe has that part of the story.
Traveling back to Washington last night, President Trump signed a series of executive orders, including one calling on the Pentagon to begin pushing out transgender troops.
I want to thank you all.
A movie previewed earlier in the day.
To ensure that we have the most...
Dude, every day is just worse than the last. This is crazy.
...lethal fighting force in the world. We will get transgender ideology the hell out of our military. It's going to be gone.
Trump had already revoked protections for transgender service members implemented by former President Biden. And the new executive order argues transgender people cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service.
When we hear this executive order saying that we're not worthy of service, it is unnerving. It's disheartening to hear.
Transgender Army veteran Layla Ireland served 12 years, and her husband, Logan, is also transgender. He served in the Air Force for more than 14.
And when you're out on the battlefield, and let's say you have rounds coming down range and you don't know if you're going to be here in the next couple minutes, when you see that medic coming to get you, you don't care what their gender is. You don't care if they're transgender.
Reporting for his first day as Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth stood by Trump's new orders.
The lawful orders of the President of the United States will be executed inside this Defense Department swiftly and without excuse.
Another new Trump executive order reinstates the roughly 8,200 service members discharged for refusing to comply with the Pentagon's COVID-19 vaccine mandate, restoring their rank and providing back pay.
I think we're going to have a lot of people that join.
The Biden-era mandate was rescinded in early 2023, and only about 110 of those kicked out have since rejoined. Trump is also ordering the Pentagon to start developing an Iron Dome system over the USA. It's modeled on the air defense system that keeps most missiles fired at Israel.
This is my favorite one. Like, okay, in a sea of like horrific actions that they're taking, the one where they're like, we're gonna do our own Iron Dome, that one is awesome, because there's so many different reasons why it's awesome. One, the Iron Dome is only good for, you know, bathtub rockets that a captive population are making with like unexploded ordnance that Israel uses, right, in Gaza, and you know some other traffic materials too. But ultimately, obviously, the Iron Dome can't do anything against like nukes or more serious firepower. That's number one. Number two, Israel is much smaller as far as area surface than the United States of America, obviously, and therefore it is easier to cover Israel with the Iron Dome. Number three, the notion that the greatest threat to American lives and American safety is going to be like rockets coming in from Canada or Mexico, and not the fact that, you know, the Trump administration is doing a full-scale federal freeze. What are we doing here? Like, what do you think is more damaging, dude? Just having for-profit healthcare or rockets? Like, what do you think kills more Americans every year? I genuinely think Trump thinks that the Iron Dome is also like a dome, like a physical dome. I don't know why, but I have this belief. I have this suspicion that Trump actually thinks that there is an actual dome, a physical one, and that it would be cool to build that on top of America. Okay.
From ever hitting targets.
And we protect other countries.
Yeah, we do have a pretty robust, we have an Iron Dome in the U.S. called the nuclear warheads aimed at their heads. Yes. Also, we have a fairly robust, missile system regardless. Not only are we sheltered in the United States of America because we're so far away from any sort of foreign adversary that could provide any sort of foreign adversary that could be an immediate threat. Okay. We also have interception systems anyway. Like we just have, it's just so stupid, which is why I think it's funny. It's like, great, yeah, do the Iron Dome, man. That seems like a great idea.
But we don't protect ourselves.
And in another move on Monday, more than a dozen Justice Department officials who worked on special counsel Jack Smith's investigations of Trump were fired. The spokesman tells CBS News the acting attorney general, quote, didn't believe they could be trusted to faithfully implement the president's agenda. Tony, lots of
Ed, thank you
changes
very
underway
much.
in Washington.
Yeah, that's for sure, Ed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.